Good morning. I'm alive again. I love that. So I should, looks like it's pretty dark. I should probably turn on a light. Not the light behind me, but the light in front. There we go. How's that? Oh, I should turn that one off, right? Well, I've been watching the raccoons for a while. Did you watch them? It was fun. I know it was probably boring if you want to see action, but if you don't care about action, well, all is well. So I have this rack that I brought home from my mom's. It opens out, and see all those hooks. This is what my grandmother used for hanging her strips when she hooked rugs. See, this is part of the rug that she was working at. I took it over and I did a whole bunch on it now too. Anyway, but when I was in Georgia, I couldn't believe what I was finding. I found this entire chest full of rug hooking stuff. Unbelievable. So you see, there we have little strips now. See? So now I'm just going to hang them over one of these hooks. And then I'll take my next strip. I think the colors are not quite all the same, and so I think that they all go to the same work. They all be parts of a leaf or something. Did you have a good sleep? I know I didn't fix myself up, didn't put my barrettes in. It's because I got up at 3. Got up at 3 and I thought, you know what? I was going to go upstairs. It was hot. It was really hot. We're not used to such things as spring and summer. So I came upstairs and I looked outside and the stars were amazing. You could see every constellation all the way across the sky. Phenomenal. It's been a long time since I got up in the middle of the night up here, you know. I haven't lived up here for quite a while. Isn't that great how it cuts them? Do you know how you keep a cane chair from breaking? Do you know if you soak the seat, if it would just be everything you hoped it would be? Do everything you hoped it would do. My grandmother did such a great job hooking rugs. She made beautiful rugs. I have a few of them. Okay. My daughter, I think it was my daughter, somebody was saying, or Mary Jane, she was saying you gotta put all your strips on the rack so that, and then you'll just look at them and you'll know which ones you need to use next. Good idea, right? I'm gonna do it. This is quite interesting to do. Cutting up strips is fun to do, fun to do, fun to do. Cutting up strips is fun to do, to do, to do, to do. Then I don't know if these are different from those. Oh, they're different colors, you know. Okay, so now turn it so you can see it. So this is what it looks like. You put it in here, and then you turn the handle. You just have to keep it lined up here. These have rubber things you can suction them onto the surface should you wish. Look at this rack. So now we have other ones here, other colors. I think this may be, she may have this arranged so they all look about the same, don't they? But they're not. They should be organized by light to dark. I'm not going to do that now. So what else have we got over here? See, we have this, which is green ones. What does that say? Puke? P-U... I don't know. It looks like they're all the same, doesn't it? Now this is a green, and those are greens. And this is a green. Many different shades of green. Have I got enough of these? Do I have this one? Yeah, I think that's the same as that. How about this one? It's kind of got a yellow in it. Yeah, I think I'll do that one. You want to see my plants? Look at how big these leaves are. I got a whole slew of them. All right, we're going to turn around and look at this one. Wait a minute, you didn't turn around, did you? I knew there was a problem, but I wasn't exactly sure what it was. Okay, so... Okay, here we go now. I have to wipe the table, I think, since it is my basket making table. This stuff has been in my mother's basement since 1975, I think. Whoa, look at that sunrise. Let's go outside and have a look. Look at these lettuces. Aren't they beautiful? Oh, yummy, yummy. Well, it looks like it's gonna, clouds are gonna go over. Okay, too cold. All right. That was the sunrise. So what else have we got in here? We've got this set. That's interesting. Oh. Just cut them all at the same time so that I'll know what I need if I need some more. Would have been fun to know my grandmother better. A little too much to hang on that little hook, though. That's trouble. Okay, I think I'll put these away. Now they had these, she has these connected with a clothespin. Alright, now, shall we do some of this stuff? Is it the same or are they different? Well, it's a pack. So it's S gray, green, O-N-E-R over, puke. Gray, green over puke. That was puke up there, I think. I know it's probably not puke, but it sure looks like P-U-R-E, P-U-I-E-K. And then there's this group. You know, that's pretty perfect, eh? It's a nice swatch. Colors by Marianne. B8 to 8T, $2.60. Hand dyed by Marianne Lincoln. 139 Park Street, Wrentham, Massachusetts, 02093. Her phone number back in 1950 or 1970, 1965, maybe 1975, was 617-384-8188. If you need them, I don't know if there's anybody at that number anymore that knows anybody that where you can get them or whatever. Okay, I think I want to do some of these first. I'm so glad I'm into doing things now. I'm so busy. You know, I watched that One World Inside or something like that. Let's look at the sunrise again. It's pretty impressive, eh? Sorry, it's got that light reflecting right on it. Oh well, whatever. It is what it is, right? Maybe I should put pictures of my grandmother and her parents and whatever family pictures I have of hers. Maybe that should go up here beside her, beside this thing of her rug stuff. All right. All right, I'm gonna hang these up. figure out a way to put this here so it will all fit properly. It's kind of an unusual thing because the center has a top and a bottom, and these sides are not as big. This is kind of cool. But see this, that one's long on the bottom and the other ones are shorter. How does that work? Do you hang it? Oh, we gotta get plugged up again. All right, well, what if you went, just turn you around. Now, what if I put you, no, not you. What if I put this? What if this goes in the corner like so? It wants to do that. The other way then. Put it in the corner like so. Put a little tape. Kind of. Strange affair, eh? Maybe I need to just hook it. Okay, I can put it on like that. Ouch. Why does this one go so tightly? What's happening there? Maybe I have another hook here. Another hook here. Hold it in place. It wants to be bent. It wants to really be mixed up here. So if I'm going to have it up high, I could bring these down lower. You can't see anything, can you? I'm trying to pull these down. Okay. All right, now try. All right, now I have to do something with that. I'm not sure just what. But see, so far, this is what it looks like now. If I hook those two places on the bottom so it'll hold it. Hand-dyed wool swatches and backgrounds. Jean Benjamin, 12 Cottage Street, West Brookfield, Mass. 617-867-879, no, 8783. Anyway. I'll try wetting this. So the sunrise colors have stopped. Okay, let's see if it'll stick on there. Nope. This is probably a flat surface like a countertop or something. Now wool, if you let it sit, especially if it gets in some dampness, it will straighten right out. The sunrise was really pretty, eh? Those colors. Now it's just brown. I mean, now it's just dark, cloudy. But it looked like there was going to be some hope later, right? Squeaky for you. Okay, so that one. Oops. Let's see. So what are your plans for today? Do you hook rugs? I really don't know what I'm doing too much. I have a general idea. Okay, so those three are done. I'll hang this up with them. Pretty cool that I've got them working out here now. These straight strings that Desmond tied the chair up with are a little trippy. Tripping uppy. Trip uppy-ing-ish. Okay, I have it hanging behind them. Alright, now let's move on and do some of these colors here. There's those raccoons left. I guess the sun came up, must be bedtime. Okay. Maybe if you put it on a wet cloth and the wet cloth is on the table. Okay, Google. What's the latest news? You don't mind if I play the news, do you?
From BBC Minute at 6:26 a.m. today.
I'm Nicky. I'm Jamie. This is BBC Minute. That used to start. Apple Music is launching in 52 new countries. 24 of them are in Africa, including Cameroon, Chad, Rwanda, and the Seychelles. Bosnia and Herzegovina will also get the streaming service. It's Apple's biggest expansion in a decade. So to the coronavirus, the world famous event has been cancelled due to the pandemic, and I am gutted about this. Germany's Oktoberfest beer festival is on. Sad story out of India next. A 12-year-old girl left jobless by the virus lockdown has died after walking 150 kilometres. The girl collapsed while trying to reach her home. R. Kelly is supposed to be released from prison again because he fears catching COVID-19. Yeah, he says he wouldn't disappear in free because he owes the taxman nearly $2 million. The R&B star denies these charges. And we might get an update on when football might restart later. But if you can't wait, the E-Premier League starts shortly. Aston Villa's John McGinn takes on Brighton's Neil Mopay in the FIFA 20 competition.
BBC Minute. From BBC News Summary at 6:06 a.m. today.
It's after 6.
BBC News. Hello, this is Jerry Smith. Donald Trump has announced that he will impose a temporary ban on all immigration into the United States. With my tweets, Mr. Trump said the move was needed to protect American jobs during the coronavirus pandemic. Our correspondent in Washington, John Topol.
People are scratching their heads with this and saying, well, what does this mean? How is it going to be implemented? People are casting their minds back to when he first came into power, and that was the first executive order he signed, limiting immigration from mainly Muslim countries, and that fell foul of the courts and it led to lengthy legal wrangling. It was eventually adopted, but after much changing of it, are we about to go through a similar process now? And my other question that is in my mind is this about coronavirus, or is this about November's election?
Leading Democrats have condemned the president's remarks, some accusing him of attacking immigrants and blaming us for President Trump. The Indonesian president has announced that Muslims will be prevented from travelling home from Jakarta and other major cities at the end of Ramadan to prevent the spread of coronavirus across the country. The mission, known as Mudik, sees millions of city workers returning to provinces and villages across the archipelago to visit their families. President Joko Widodo has faced criticism in the last week for not officially banning Mudik. A 12-year-old girl in India who'd lost her job because of the coronavirus lockdown has died after walking 150 kilometres to try to reach her home. Yogita Lemoye reports from Mumbai.
12-year-old Jamlo Makdam had been working on chili farms in the southern state of Telangana.
Okay, Google, continue.
With some relatives and friends. Left jobless due to lockdown and with no transport available, the group decided to make the journey back to their village on foot. Officials say Jamlo died of exhaustion after 3 days of walking. Millions of internal migrants are stranded in India's cities without work and money. The government has announced a $22 billion aid package for them, but food and relief material is not reaching everyone.
The price of US oil has stayed close to zero after plunging to its lowest ever level on Monday, minus $37 a barrel. Andrew Walker has this report.
The oil market's extraordinary gyrations reflect the economic damage done by the coronavirus. The high-profile negative price will disappear, at least for a time, as trading in that contract ends later on Tuesday. But there are other prices below zero in North America, with suppliers in effect paying to have oil taken away. They reflect the fact that the oil industry globally is producing more than the world can currently use, and there's a rapidly diminishing amount of capacity to store it.
You're listening to World News from the BBC. The world's best-known beer festival, Jones Oktoberfest, has been cancelled because of the virus. The state premier said the risk of holding the event was simply too great. Jenny Hill reports.
The cancellation of Germany's world-famous beer festival has disappointed many, but surprised few. Every year, 6 million visitors, many from overseas, crowd into huge decorated tents to sit side by side at trestle tables and beer. Without a corona vaccine or treatment, that posed far too high a risk of infection. The cancellation, which will help the local economy, comes as Germany eases some measures which restrict daily life. Small shops are reopening, and some children are returning to school to take exams. But Angela Merkel has warned these are early days.
Official figures suggest that the true extent of coronavirus deaths in Britain is significantly higher than the government's tally. The Office for National Statistics said the total in England and Wales in the week up to April the 10th was 41% higher than the figures from hospitals across the UK published by the government. The more comprehensive data includes deaths in care homes and the community. The spokesman said the total number of deaths from all causes was at a 20-year high. Reports from Australia say the country's police minister is due in court after being accused of using alcohol, which is not allowed during the coronavirus outbreak. Olo Muramotse was questioned by police on Monday after a widely shared video which appeared to show him outside a liquor store. And church bells in Sri Lanka have rung out to mark the one-year anniversary of the Easter Sunday suicide bombings which killed more than 250 people. The country then fell silent for 2 minutes. The bombers targeted Christian worshippers and ships in multiple locations. BBC News.
From CNN News Briefing at 6:16 p.m. yesterday.
Hello, I'm Amaral Walker, and this is your CNN News Briefing. Fed up with lockdowns and social distancing, some Americans are taking to the streets to demand faster reopenings of their states so they can get back to work and resuscitate the economy. In Pennsylvania Monday, a gathering of protesters held an anti-shutdown rally in Harrisburg. It was a similar scene in Austin, Texas over the weekend and many other states last week. But medical researchers urge caution and say before the country can reopen, testing must go way up. Many state governors say they don't have what they need for widespread testing and have asked the federal government for help. It was designed to help small businesses and their workers stay afloat during the COVID-19 pandemic. But last week, the government's Paycheck Protection Program, funded by a $349 billion stimulus package, ran out of money. Now, amid growing backlash over the distribution of funds, one company is returning their $10 million emergency loan. In an open letter, the CEO of burger chain Shake Shack says his company no longer needs the money because they are fortunate to now have access to capital that others do not. The number of active COVID-19 cases in Italy dropped Monday for the first time since the crisis began. That's according to Italy's Civil Protection Agency. The total number of active cases decreased by 20 from Sunday to Monday to 108,237. It's a statistically insignificant drop, though, and the agency admits there have been fewer tests done in the past few days. And finally, don't forget to check out Dr. Sanjay Gupta's daily podcast for the latest on the coronavirus. In Coronavirus Facts versus Fiction, he consults with top medical experts to answer your questions. Find the podcast on CNN.com or wherever you download podcasts. I'm Amra Walker, and that's your CNN News Briefing. For more on these stories and others, visit CNN.com.
From CNET at 6 a.m. yesterday.
This is CNET, and here are the stories that matter right now. Social media behemoth Facebook is launching a gaming mobile app on April 20, according to a report by the New York Times. The app is reportedly designed to stream and watch live gameplay, putting it up against the myriad other services dominating this space like Twitch, YouTube, and Mixer. The coronavirus pandemic played a small part in moving up the timeline on the app, as more people are playing video games in quarantine. Now, Netflix understands everybody is absolutely vibrating for more content as we all shelter in place and avoid spreading the coronavirus. And that includes teachers and educators who use the platform's documentaries to teach classes. So the Dreamstream team have provided 10 docuseries from their storied catalogue for free, uploading some classic documentaries to YouTube to keep everybody entertained. And there's some bangers in here. There's Ava DuVernay's 13th, which is unreal, and David Attenborough's Our Planet is both entertaining and horrifying. I mean, have you seen the walrus scene for this thing? It's unclear if and when Netflix will remove the documentary, so get a move on and get watching. And finally, it feels like there's no better time to leave this planet. And SpaceX and NASA seem to agree. In a historic first, Americans will launch to space from American soil on the top of a commercial rocket built by SpaceX. A SpaceX Falcon 9 will ferry NASA astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley to the International Space Station on May 27th. SpaceX have shown their Crew Dragon capsule can get to the space station and back with no problems. But this will be the first crewed flight for SpaceX. Stay up to date with the latest by listening CNET.
From CBC News World Report at 6 a.m. today.
This is World Report. Good morning. It is Tuesday, April 21st. From CBC News, I'm Yi Koksa. On computer and cell phone screens, on doorsteps, Nova Scotians are trying to grieve together while apart. We know more this morning about the people killed over the weekend in Nova Scotia.
I bought the flowers here for my niece Jamie Blair and her husband Craig. And the report said they survived.
Richard Lane laid flowers for his family members who were killed near the community of Wentworth. Lillian Hislop was also killed there. A friend tells CBC News she was just out for a walk. Gina Barrett-White is still trying to make sense of the death of her former colleague, Lisa McCulley.
She would have fought to the end if she was there to protect her kids, and I don't know the details. I don't know if we ever will know the details, but I know that she would have done anything for those kids.
McCulley was an elementary school teacher and a mother of two. Those stories are just some of the ones our colleagues here at CBC News have confirmed so far, and we know there will be more names to add to the list. Police say the shooter killed at least 18 people this weekend in an attack that spanned 12 hours. We know it began in the community of Portapic. That's where the CBC's Brett Ruskin is once again for us this morning. So, Brett, what can you tell us in terms of the latest on the police investigation?
Well, I mean, when we spoke around this time yesterday, we had thought that there was only, a handful of crime scenes, but RCMP are now saying there is 16 different scenes that they are taking a look at, 16 different scenes that they have to secure and collect evidence from to try to piece together this shooting that has spread over just this huge part of the province. And some of those crime scenes involve structures or homes that had burnt down and that officers weren't initially able to even get into to assess whether or not there are any other victims inside those buildings. And so that is why we are seeing the death toll increase every day or so, and RCMP warning people that the death toll could increase once again as they continue this investigation.
Preparing people for more difficult news they will have to deal with. And already we're seeing, really hour by hour, different ways that people are grieving.
Well, last night was really astonishing to see the outpouring of emotion and kind of collectiveness of people coming together in as complex of actions as a downtown Halifax hotel that is, for the most part, a little bit more empty than it would be in this time of COVID pandemic. They put bright red lights in strategically placed hotel room windows to create a giant heart image along the side of their building. As people, collectively put out a candle or a flashlight at 8:30 last night, there were hundreds of people who were doing this, who were posting it on social media just to take 2 minutes of quiet reflection, to take a moment to think of those lives lost, the victims killed in this shooting.
So much kindness and collective grief, as you put it, in such a difficult time. Brett Ruskin in Portapique, Nova Scotia, once again for us this morning. Brett, thank you.
Thank you.
We want to let you know Nova Scotia RCMP are expected to give another update. We will bring you details about that as soon as we get them. We're going to turn now for a moment to our ongoing COVID-19 coverage. British Columbia is changing its testing strategy. It now says anyone with COVID-19 symptoms can get a test. The aim is to avert a spike in community transmission. Experts say widespread testing is what is needed in order to get to a place where they can safely ease restrictions. The federal government also wants provinces to ramp up their testing, but as Karina Roman reports, its options are limited.
With one arm tied behind our back.
Dr. Camille Lemieux is the medical lead for the COVID Assessment Centre at the University Health Network in Toronto. Because of the narrow criteria Ontario has set, she has to turn away people with COVID symptoms. She says that without broader testing, governments won't have enough information to decide when and how to open up the economy. Chief Public Health Officer Teresa Tam acknowledged as much.
We're working really closely with every province, and it is their collective goal to increase testing in Canada.
Ottawa has procured the necessary testing supplies, sped up the approval of new tests, and it's working to find thousands of people who can do contact tracing. But it does not have the power to tell the provinces who they should test. Amir Adran, who teaches at both the Faculty of Law and School of Epidemiology at the University of Ottawa, says that should change.
If they don't have a federal government to steady their hand, it will go badly. You should not have 10 provinces each trying to reinvent a public health wheel.
Experts warn if testing isn't ramped up soon, governments will face the stark choice of delaying a return to normal or going ahead based on limited data, risking an outbreak, and lives. Karina Roman, CBC News, Ottawa.
Checkpoints, curfews, and lockdowns, even threats of eviction. Many First Nations leaders across Canada are taking serious measures to try to protect their communities from COVID-19. Indigenous Services Canada says that as of yesterday, there are 53 confirmed cases of the virus. Karen Paul has that story.
This gas bar in the Opaskwayak Cree Nation in northern Manitoba closing measures that include a checkpoint, a curfew from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., and a ban on more than 10 people gathering in homes and garages. Chief Christian Sinclair says repeat offenders face eviction.
Kicking people out of their homes if they're abandoned homes.
Sinclair says community members have asked for these measures to protect them from COVID-19. They remember how they were affected by other health emergencies, including H1N1 and TB.
We lose a life, that's a life we can't ever get back.
Most COVID-19 cases on reserve so far have been in Quebec, which is why some groups have imposed tight restrictions.
The welfare of our people is under our responsibility.
Serge Simon, Grand Chief of the Mohawk Council of Kanesatake, says while everyone is on board with the measures there, some businesses are starting to feel the financial strain and want to reopen.
They've been cooperative so far, but they're becoming impatient.
Alex Neve of Amnesty International says governments at all levels have a responsibility to impose whatever restrictions they deem necessary to protect their residents. But
communities should consider drawing upon their own human rights expertise to make sure that there's some scrutiny put in place here.
To ensure health and security are balanced with human rights. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he plans to sign an executive order to temporarily suspend all immigration to the United States. He says it's to manage the coronavirus. The critics challenge that claim. Let's bring in our senior Washington editor, Lindsay Duncombe. So what do we know about the
This is the important stuff, I think.
This is a policy announcement by tweet, so not a whole lot of detail. The president wrote, in light of the attack of the invisible enemy, as well as executive order to temporarily stop all immigration to the U.S. Now, the reality is, immigration isn't essentially happening right now. The borders and the visa offices are closed. But there are real concerns that what the president is doing here is using the crisis to expand an immigration crackdown, which would be popular with his base ahead of the November election. The administration already stopped processing asylum claims at the southern border, and the president repeatedly says his decision to ban travel, particularly from China, was key to preventing virus. Own handling to migrant workers needed to maintain the food supply. We do not know what legal basis the president would use to make the city, regardless of the headlines they generate.
Washington, thanks for this, Lindsay.
You're welcome.
Drinking in for the people of No Cans. Many lit can
person. I
would teacher and
there's no words. What has been called one of the most senseless acts of violence in Nova Scotia's history. One of them, Constable Heidi Stevenson. Jesse Casavecchi knew her and stopped by RCMP headquarters to bring flowers.
She was caring, compassionate, fun-loving.
Also among the dead, corrections officers Sean McLeod and Alana Jenkins. Tom Bagley, a retired firefighter, was also killed. Lisa McCulley is remembered as a passionate teacher. Kristen Beaton and Heather O'Brien as caring members of the Victorian Order of Nurses. And a family of three, Aaron Tuck, Jolene Oliver, and their daughter, 17-year-old Emily Tuck. We're praying for you. Later, people stood alone on their decks and front lawns, holding candles to light the news. Halifax.
And in Washington, the White House is reacting to the tragedy in Nova Scotia. In a statement, President Donald Trump and the First Lady sent their sincere condolences to all Canadians, saying, quote, as friends and neighbors, we will always stand with one another. As people reach out in solidarity over the tragedy, there are also some tough questions for authorities in Nova Scotia about why they did not use the new emergency alert system on cell phones during the shooting to warn residents about the gunman. Nova Scotia Premier Stephen McNeil says the Mounties did not request such an alert.
So we as a province, I've gone through our government actually to a number of ministers to find out if we were asked for that, and we weren't. We'll find out more details why the law enforcement agency encouraged didn't ask.
The RCMP says it sent out alerts on Twitter. Now to the latest on the COVID-19 crisis. British Columbia is ramping up testing in an effort to control community transmission of the coronavirus. That province appears to be flattening the curve. And as Renee Filipponi reports, health officials want it to stay that way.
Anyone with symptoms of COVID-19 can now be assessed and tested.
It's the latest shift in BC's testing strategy, says Provincial Health Officer Dr. Bonnie Henry. Up until recently, testing was focused on vulnerable areas, particularly long-term care homes and healthcare workers. The change is an attempt to avert a spike in community transmission amid slowing growth of the virus.
And that's why we are changing the strategy again to open it up and ensure that we continue to find everybody who needs to be isolated and where we need to do contact tracing in the province.
Henry says only people experiencing symptoms should contact their doctor or health authority to get tested.
If you do not have symptoms, this test has very limited benefit and is not necessarily valid.
There are now nearly 1,700 cases in BC. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, Vancouver.
And the Prime Minister of Australia is easing some of the physical distancing restrictions in his country. Scott Morrison says they'll come into effect after the Australian Remembrance Day this weekend.
Today we agreed to lift restrictions on elective surgery after Anzac Day after the long weekend. This will not mean an immediate return to normal.
Plans are underway for students to return to school in New South Wales starting May 11th. And that is your World This Hour. I'm Miriam Warnica.
From CNBC at 1:35 a.m. today.
This CNBC News Update is brought to you by TD Ameritrade, where smart investors get smarter.
Stocks are coming off a plunge on Wall Street after oil prices went negative for the first time ever. It means oil producers pay traders will take barrels of oil away. The Dow is down 2.5%, down 592 points. The crude oil price plummet is because there's too much of it. Global demand has stalled because of coronavirus, and there's so much oil still being produced and nowhere to store it.
There are concerns about storage tanks in the U.S. for crude oil filling up. And the real punch in the gut here from our good friends, the Saudis, they're sending 20 super tankers our way, on top of everything else.
Again, Capital's John Kilduff on CNBC. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, Harvard, and burger chain Shake Shack, just a few big entities that got payroll protection program money using a loophole, while many small business owners were left with nothing.
That's terrible.
Shake Shack is now
I'm glad they asked for oversight. There was before that was approved. Don't know if that'll have any.
As soon as we did understand that, we have other access to capital, and we have the opportunity to take care of our company for the long term. We are returning our 10 million so that this industry can rise together.
Shake Shack CEO Randy Garuti on CNBC. Home listings were down 47% by the second week of April as the spring real estate season collapses, according to Realtor.com. Would-be buyers staying home during the outbreak. Yes, says some markets are at risk for price drops for what is for sale, including Houston with its exposure to oil companies, and Las Vegas, Miami, Orlando, Seattle, San Francisco, and New York City. And KBS is closing its Swift premium pork plant in Worthington, Minnesota, indefinitely. More than 2 dozen workers tested positive for COVID-19 there. It's cutting 2,000 jobs. Jessica Edmonds, CNBC.
Stay connected, stay informed. It's CNBC. Got to listen live on the CNBC app.
From the Intelligence at 6:02 a.m. today.
Hello and welcome to The Intelligence on Autonomous Radio. I'm your host, Jason Palmer. Every weekday, we provide a fresh perspective on the events shaping your world. Frontline medical workers everywhere are suffering amid a shortage of protective equipment. Masks, face shields, gowns. Manufacturers of all sorts are making more, but supply isn't the only problem in getting the kit into the right hands. And in Brazil, telenovelas are more than hugely popular entertainment. These soap operas perform an educational service too. COVID-19 has halted their production for the first time. When the cameras roll again, how will these shows deal with the pandemic? First up, though. In Hong Kong, more than 7,000 mostly young people have been arrested since the eruption of pro-democracy unrest in June. But no action by the police has caused as much shock as this weekend's roundup of some of the territory's most venerated campaigners. The 15 arrests included lawmakers and lawyers accused of involvement in last year's mass protests. Among them was newspaper owner Jimmy Lai, who was arrested at his home and driven away in a police van. Another was Martin Lee, barrister and former legislator often called the father of Hong Kong's pro-democracy movement. Speaking after his release on bail, the 81-year-old said he was proud to have walked the road of democracy with the territory's young people. The detainment of some of the figureheads of the protest movement might be intended as a deterrent against future mass gatherings. But given the fervor of last year's demonstrations, it could have the opposite effect.
The protests that broke out in early summer last year carried on throughout the summer and the autumn, and then they peaked in November with some very violent clashes between protesters and the police.
Caroline Carter is our Deputy Asia News Editor.
In November there was a local election and the protesters deliberately calmed things down before that. The last big march was on January 1st, which was just before the coronavirus came into Hong Kong from the mainland. And with people so fearful about the disease, it's been impossible for many people to come out on the streets and protest. But the sentiment and the anger is still there. And so now the virus seems to be largely under control in Hong Kong. People are wondering what form the protests might take next.
Why have these recent arrests caused so much more concern than all the prior ones?
Amongst the 15 people arrested on Saturday, some of them were the founders of the Hong Kong democracy movement. They're moderate, some of them are very old, they're generally peaceful, and some of these people have spent their lives as part of the political and legal establishment here in Hong Kong. So one of the people arrested is Martin Lee, and he's
It's really nice to have a supply of these ready to use,
He's
you know.
81 years old, he's a barrister, he was a legislator, and before the handover he helped to draft the basic law, which is the law of Hong Kong. The other probably most famous figure who was arrested was Jimmy Lai. He's a very wealthy man. He runs a media company that publishes a newspaper that's very critical of the Communist Party. So their arrest probably seems more shocking than thousands of young people who were arrested last summer. And there's also such a long lag between the events that they're being charged for, which were in August and October, and their arrests now. So I think it took people by surprise.
And what is it that these 15 are accused of?
The charges against most of them relate to protests that took place in August and October last year, during the large-scale protest movement. Under Hong Kong's public order ordinance, even small gatherings without approval from the police can be deemed to be unauthorised, which means the people who attend them risk being arrested. And so the maximum penalty is 3 years in prison, but most people can expect to get off with a fine, I understand.
And what do you think the motivation is for targeting these high-profile people?
Amongst the 15, there's different sorts of people. As I said, there's legislators, some are barristers, some are younger activists. Jimmy Lai is this media tycoon. He and Martin Lee particularly are well known to have travelled to America to speak to Western politicians and ask them to kind of pay attention to what's happening in Hong Kong. And these arrests seem designed to warn people in Hong Kong that nobody is above the law. That's been said by policemen in Hong Kong, and the sentiment was echoed by the Chinese Foreign Ministry.
香港是法治社会，任何人都不能凌驾于法律之上。香港警方依法执法。
Some people in Hong Kong believe that the Chinese government ordered these arrests, and that could mean that they're meant to signal to Western governments that China will not tolerate any interference into its politics.
But why make these arrests now if this has been the feeling from the start?
And so the police say it's just taken a long time to gather this evidence, and it's possible that the coronavirus epidemic here might have slowed that down. It's even possible that the police are now worried about the protests flaring back up, and this could be seen as a deterrent to that. And so there have been other signs this week of pressures on the pro-democracy movement. Senior Communist Party officials increased calls for the Hong Kong government to pass a national security law, known as Article 23, which is designed to counter the threat from radical violence and foreign interference and pro-independence forces. And in the same week, Beijing seems to have lost patience with the behaviour of opposition politicians in the city's legislative council, who since October have been making it impossible to pass any legislation. And there's a few important bills that are stuck with LegCo, and until that becomes unblocked, it's going to be impossible for the government.
Arrests that perhaps authorities might have been reluctant to do when the protests were really burning late last year, earlier this year. Do you think this is a sign that in the COVID-19 era, Beijing, and Hong Kong's authorities themselves are willing to put more pressure on?
So I think it's impossible to know exactly where these instructions came from, but it seems unlikely that the police would have done this without some assessment of the political implications. Beijing's stance towards Hong Kong does seem to be hardening, and the world being distracted by the coronavirus could help. But in terms of Hong Kong politics, I think a crackdown like this on the opposition movement has been on the cards for a long time.
And so as Hong Kong passes through the worst of the pandemic and life gets more like it used to be, what prospects do you see for even more unrest? Surely these arrests this week will have only inflamed tensions.
Yes, I think that's right. Everything that the police or the mainland government do infuriates people and makes them want to come back out into the streets. At the moment, there's particular laws in place to do with social distancing and coronavirus that makes it even more difficult for groups to assemble. But these arrests have not beheaded the movement. You know, these people weren't the leaders of the movement. So I think it's possible that protests will start up again. I think it might be difficult to have the huge crowds that we saw last year. I think the police are probably better trained, so those large-scale unrest will become riskier. The Hong Kong police here has warned of the threat of homegrown terrorism, so they've uncovered bomb threats, which is another direction the protests could be going in. More moderate Democrats are looking towards legislators to exercise their democratic rights. And we know that any suppression by the mainland government triggers more and more people to come out and vote. But the Democrats are very worried that the government will find ways to disqualify candidates that they like. And on top of that, there's always a risk that the government will find an excuse to cancel or postpone the elections completely, either coronavirus or protests or some other unknown. In terms of upcoming protests, some Democrats are looking forward to the anniversaries of the beginning of the protest movement last year in June. And there's also July 1st, when an annual pro-democracy movement always takes place. And I think arrests like this, interference from the Communist Party, or the forcing through of unpopular legislation could all inspire greater numbers of people to come out then. So I think after a relatively calm spring, I think Hong Kong can expect a very tense summer.
Caroline, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Jason.
For a lot more analysis like this, subscribe to The Economist. To get 12 issues for $12 or £12, just go to economist.com/radio offer. Countries both rich and poor are scrambling for vital medical gear.
We've got to do more to get the PPE that people need to the front line.
All over the world, the kit needed to face the COVID-19 pandemic is in short supply. Ventilators for the critically ill, chemicals used in tests, and personal protective equipment, or PPE, such as gowns and masks. The lack of PPE has drawn protests from healthcare workers.
Dystopian, apocalyptic. I am seeing people die every single day. We don't have the cleaning supplies.
And promises from governments to keep hold of what they have.
Right now, given the great news for PPE in our own country, because we don't use critical medical items in the United States until demand is met here.
Plenty of work is underway to unblock bottlenecks in supply chains, to manufacture and ship the gear to those who need it most. This week, the car manufacturer Ford has begun making ventilators at a plant in Michigan. It's already committed other plants to making gowns, masks, and collection kits for tests. But in the meantime, standards in hospitals are slipping as healthcare workers must improvise to keep themselves and others safe.
As supplies are running short, it seems that a lot of corners are being cut.
Patrick Lane is our deputy digital editor.
In Britain, health officials said on Friday that some of this PPE, personal protective equipment, may now be laundered and reused rather than discarded as it would have been. There have been some quite dramatic pictures going round, some medical staff using bin liners for improvised protection, for example. In Italy, it was reported that doctors in some hospitals were going into 8-hour shifts wearing adult nappies so that they would avoid having to change their PPE when they came out of a ward to use the lavatory.
But this has been a discussion since the very start of the pandemic, and a lot of the producers and supply chains that provide this stuff have been ramping up. I mean, why has it proved so difficult to make the stuff and get it to where it's required?
Part of the reason is just the increase in demand is so huge. Normally, of course, markets respond, so as demand goes up, supply expands to meet it. But when demand is this great, it's just very, very difficult to do. So that's the first thing. But there's more to it than that. A lot of this equipment is internationally traded. So there's a recent study by economists at the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis in the United States, which reckons that 30% of COVID-19 essential equipment, so that's PPE plus a bit more, plus ventilators and other stuff, 30% of that is imported and 9% comes from China alone. So it's not just a matter of ramping up local supply. In addition to that, the international supply routes themselves are clogged. So Flexport, which is a big freight forwarder, says that normally half of all air freight of all sorts travels in the holds of passenger planes. And on some routes, it's up to 80%. Well, passenger planes are no longer flying, or there are far fewer of them. So there's a bottleneck there. Well, can't stuff go by ship? Well, it can, and you'd think ships would be emptier. They are. But a lot of shipping lines have cancelled sailings, or they drop ports in their itineraries. There's another blockage there.
And I suppose as these supply chains and supply routes have been getting bottlenecked, that individual countries are battling to keep hold of what they can easily get hold of, what they already make.
Yeah, that's true. Now, at the beginning of this process, of course, some of the countries that now desperately need PPE were exporting it to countries where it seemed the demand was greater in the first place. What you're seeing now increasingly is countries trying to hold on to what they have or making more desperate attempts to acquire it from overseas. So there was a report that French officials had said that American buyers had redirected masks from China that were actually on the airport in Shanghai by offering 3 times the original price. There's a lot of what you might call more orthodox trade policy being used as well. So the European Union has restricted exports of essential goods to non-members. At the beginning of this month, Donald Trump ordered restrictions on American exports of PPE, which have been relaxed a bit, or they're not quite as harsh as it looked like they were going to be, because he had to exempt Canada and Mexico because the supply chains across the border. And one of the difficulties with these export restrictions is that you don't know how other countries are going to react, so there's a risk of setting off a retaliatory spiral.
But it's also set off a lot of projects to try to get companies that don't normally make PPE or other medical equipment to start making it. How is that figuring into this?
There is an awful lot of this going on. In Britain, there are consortia trying to make ventilators or come up with new designs for ventilators. In the US, you're seeing GM turn over part of a factory in Indiana to making ventilators according to an existing design. You've seen clothing companies like H&M and Inditex getting their supply chain to start producing masks, and there have been plenty of other examples like that.
So one of the questions from the start here has been how much, a car parts company can make parts for, medical grade ventilators and the like. I mean, is this doing much to solve the problem at hand?
Fabio Volpe, who's the head of the Canadian Auto Parts Makers Association, he told me that it's all engineering in a way, so changing an engineering process, you can do it, it might normally take you 6 months. The problem is compressing that into perhaps a few days, and that's not easy. You're running the risk that things may not work and may fail or may not be ready quickly enough. It is difficult to manufacture something in a hurry that you haven't made before. There have been reports in Britain that NHS staff have said that new shipments of droplet-resistant gowns have failed quality tests. There's an awful lot of goodwill, but turning goodwill into efficient, adequate equipment in time is clearly a very tall order.
And most of this discussion has been essentially about trade between sort of rich world countries, without prejudice to what's going on in the developing world. I mean, these problems will surely be exacerbated there.
I think that's definitely true, because rich countries, up to a point, have domestic production capacity of their own, or they're home to companies that might be able to step in to a certain extent. But poor countries will be pretty much entirely reliant on imported medical equipment, especially if they're small countries. And so they'll be acutely vulnerable to caps that other countries will put on their exports. So Chad Brown at the Peterson Institute in Washington has calculated, for example, that 93% of the makers' imports of air purifying respirators come from the United States. Well, if those are cut off, then if you have a serious COVID-19 outbreak in Jamaica, where will these respirators come from? Probably they won't come at all.
Well, a lot of this stuff, while certainly medical grade, is not sort of high-end engineering either. I mean, what ways are there for sort of individuals to start to plug the gap?
There are an awful lot of efforts going on.
Look at the snow that's coming down now.
Trying to help fill the gap on a local level. People who are making things that could be used in local hospitals and local care homes. Some of it would qualify as PPE, something like a face mask, where people are actually using 3D printers and
Can't see it, can you?
those. And some wouldn't. For example, doctors or nurses might just use lots of changes of clothes at the moment, what you call scrubs. And across Britain and in scrub huts, making basic bits of clothing at their kitchen table.
So what do you say then, Patrick? We should get our sewing machines out and become part of the effort?
I might not be expert enough, Jason, but I know my wife's already got her sewing machine out and is cutting something out on the kitchen table as we speak.
Very nice. Well, thanks to her. Thanks to you, Patrick.
Thank you, Jason.
I don't have a working sewing machine.
Follow all of The Economist's coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic and how it's swiftly reshaping the world. Visit economist.com/coronavirus. In Brazil, COVID-19 has managed something that neither a military dictatorship nor the Rio Olympics ever could: halting production of the country's famous telenovelas. On March 16th, Brazil's largest free TV channel, Globo, shut its studios to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. It sent home thousands of employees and replaced ongoing soap operas with reruns for the first time ever. Our Brazil correspondent, Sarah Maslin, has been on the edge of her seat. wondering what will happen next to the industry.
A Brazilian telenovela is basically a soap opera. Dramatic.
Por favor, Júlia. Deixa a gente casar em paz.
Eu não posso, Guilherme. E você sabe por quê? Sometimes funny.
Vocês são muito mais interessados no meu hot dog, minha querida. Hot dog, não pensei, cachorro!
Sometimes romantic.
Eu vim aqui porque eu preciso te dizer. Eu te amo.
They have a huge role in Brazilian culture, to the point that at 9 p.m. on the biggest television channel, TV Globo, you can have a quarter of the population tuned in.
And there's a good reason for that, beyond mere entertainment.
Because Brazil has very low quality public education and massive TV audiences, telenovelas have become an important vehicle not just for entertainment, but also for education and a mirror on current affairs. Novelas help Brazilians understand issues in the public sphere. One of the most popular novelas in history was one called Avenida Brasil. That portrayed life in a poor favela and sparked conversations about race and class across the country when it premiered in 2012. They can also feel changes in everyday behavior. After organ donation saved a beloved character's life in a novella a few years ago, thousands of Brazilians started donating their organs.
And so, if these
Wow, look at this.
then they have to do something about COVID-19. I mean, how networks dealt with that crisis.
It's kind of obvious that they had to shut down production. There's so much kissing in novellas. They scrambled to re-edit existing footage to suspend one show called Amor Demais, or Mother's Love, on a cliffhanger.
Isn't that beautiful? How huge they are.
Meanwhile, most networks that show soap operas have selected popular reruns to keep people entertained while they're stuck at home.
Well, good morning, little squirrel. Sammy, how are you doing today? Oh, look, people have been talking to me. I haven't even noticed. Mary Ellen, good morning. Nancy, how are you feeling this morning? I'm feeling just wonderful. I'm glad you love my channel. I was wondering if it was a little boring. I have lost weight. Miss Angie, I weigh 165, down from 220 to 40, depending on when you ask. And what else? I'm from Canada. Nope, too early to put the garden together, don't you think?
In the end, she decided to spare her characters. The novella already deals with death and inequality, and she figured viewers would be sick of hearing.
So, you see, I was going to show you. See, this is the background here. Gee, it's so hard sometimes, isn't it? So my plants are all here. Where do they go? Turn around. This is a huge squash, I believe. I don't recognize that kind of leaf. But these are from my own seeds, from my own, what I ate. Anyway, let's turn it around and carry on. Get some more of this stuff done. Okay. So this, it says on here, look at that, it says large seaweed.
That's all for now.
This is a gift from my grandmother to me because I didn't know what color it should be. But if you look over here at it, you can see that this is what she's used. This is perfect. I have more seaweeds to do. Okay, Google, continue.
All right, playing the album Star Wars soundtrack on Google Play Music.
Oh, okay, Google, stop. Hey, should we listen to, what is it, The Age of Persuasion? What is it called? Under the Influence. It's about marketing. Okay, Google. play the latest podcast of Under the Influence on CBC.
Okay, playing the latest episode of Under the Influence from CBC Radio, Season 9, Episode 16, Brand Envy 2020.
When it sunk in for me, it just felt like despair, you know, and anger that his life was taken.
Okay, Google, stop. Don't want anything sad. What should we play? You want to play some music? Or play 70s music? Okay, Google, play music from the 70s station. Wonder if that works.
Alright, here's a Google Play music station called Classic Rock Party.
Okay, Google, stop. Okay, Google, play some relaxing music.
Okay, here's a Google Play music station called Adagio.
Adagio. So this is for seaweed, right? So I could look it up. This is Pearl McGowan. She was the one that she taught my grandmother. Okay, so I need to do a let's see. This is called, what is this called? I forget. I think it's written on there somewhere. I think I've looked this up before. Pearl K. McGowan, West Boylston, Massachusetts. This is called number 759, Water's Edge. I don't know, I can't find it in this one. 759. Water's Edge. No, it's not in this one. This has pictures of various rugs, some of which my grandmother has made. Let's see if it says on here Water's Edge. No, Water Nymph. This is not even out in that one. Maybe it was from later, you know? This looks really familiar. I think my grandmother had that pattern. I think she had that somewhere. Isn't that beautiful? I love those pastel kind of colors. So it shows you how to make your colors. Alright, let's, I was going to look up seaweed, right? seaweeded off. I'm sure the numbers of the things. But there is a certain amount of stuff she's just teaching, like how to do an iris. Good things for anyone to use, I suppose. Not that one. How about this one? It's The Lore and Lure of Hook Drugs by Pearl McGowan. And it's my grandmother. Her name. Let's see if it's in the back. It doesn't have an index. It's at the beginning, I guess. So let's look up Water's Edge. No, Water's Edge is not in there. How about large seaweed? S-E-A. Scallop scroll seashore. Well, let's try that. Seashore, see if they've got any large seaweed. 62. No, that's not it. That's something else. What was the number of this one? 759. Oh well, not in that book. Not this book. This Color in Hook Drugs by Pearl K. McGowan. Oh, this is going to be good for me. I gotta make myself read it, you know. It's talking about how to, like, sea grapes right there. Where was that? See, it's like to make the colors work out, to shade properly. See if Water's Edge is in this one. I don't think so. I think I've looked for them all already. W.A. Water Nymph. Page 242. Let's see what's in the Water Nymph one. 242. No, nothing like that. No seaweed. But I guess I need to learn how to shade. Oh, look at that one. That's very complicated. Oh, big snow is over. Now we have little snow. Now we have rain on the trees. And winter is still unwinding here. I know that down in the far south, you're already into summer. You should probably patch all these pieces of the cover back together. Well, anyway, so those books don't have it in it. This is quite interesting, though, to make all these pieces. Oh, somebody said something. Hi from England. Wow, you look fantastic. Oh, thanks. I am fantastic. You know what Maya's 3. Mommy said to Maya, I think you're dirty. I think you need a bath. Maya said, don't start. Isn't that cute? Okay, so let's hang some of these up here. suppose you want to know how I lost weight, eh? Well, I was trying to get rid of pain. And I ended up having to get rid of sugar, chocolate, flour, dairy. So I'm mostly a rabbit now. Eat dried foods and fruits and vegetables and grains. No dairy. I mean, no wheat. My grandmother would probably be so pleased to see this all happening, you know, see all this stuff going on her old rack. You know, I think I would be thrilled if I saw my kids after I'm gone, busy working away on things like this, things I had done before. I think this one is in the wrong place. Okay, Google, play Chopin.
Playing Frédéric Chopin on Google Play Music.
Okay, and then I think I'll so I'm figuring it out. If I push down on this corner here and hold the thing here, but it's kind of hard. This is shell number 2. This is cool. This is for the right stuff here. Let's see what number this is. B8E8T. B8T is shell number 2. And what's this one here? Shell number 4. Shell number 4. Small seaweed. Wow. This is pretty cool. Shell number 3. Oh, wow. Shell number 4. Shell number 4. Shell number 2. Number 2. Shell number... Small seaweed, small seaweed, small seaweed. What was this one? Kelp. Huh. Shell number 3. So we've got shell number 2, shell number 3, and shell number 4. Shell number 2. Small seaweed. Shell number 1. Shell number 3. Huh, that's so cool. Pretty much this is shell number 3 also. Shell number 4. different thing though. Shell number 3. That's shell number 3, and this is also shell number 3. So this shell is not the right shell. This is shell number 2. Is all of these, which I have just cut, haven't I? Shell number 2. Let me just cut some of this. Yeah, shell number 2. Interesting. Shell number 2. Now this is door, so I don't think that's the same stuff. Now what about those? Oh no, a lot of these are door. Shell number 1. Shell number 2. So shell number 1. It's interesting. Shell number 1. This is perfect. So I'll put this together for shell number 1. So the large seaweed, I'll put this up there with that. All right, and then it had small seaweed, right? So now what is this? Is this the same as any of these? That's the same as that. And this is for shell number 1. So we have, this is the bottom one. Okay, so that was this one. Okay, and then this one is the same as, nope. That's that one. What is this one? That must be this one. those are a different thing. I guess I've become one of those old ladies that does this sort of thing. It's very strange. I was never old before. No, people think I'm old. You know, I've always had food storage, right? So like, we've got this coronavirus thing happening, but I've had food storage since I joined the church, and they taught us we should have food storage. It was wisdom to have food storage enough for a year, because in our time, you never knew, getting laid off or unexpected financial problems or whatever. If you have a year's supply of food, then you can use your finances on other things, right? And we just would add it up, like when something was on sale, I'd buy extra. So like when cases of tomato sauce when I had kids, and cases of pineapple and all those cans, when they come on sale for like 69 cents for a can of pineapple, I'd buy like 6 cases of it. We had cases of everything. And we ate it all, we rotated it, ate it. Now I don't usually buy too much in the can because of all the can itself, So I don't have this same one here. Unless it's this, which is probably not. It's this one though. Let's see if there's another one around here. Laying around somewhere. Shell number 4. These are shell number 3. Shell number 2. And small seaweed. So what have we got here now? We've got this one up here yet? Yes. Okay, so that's the shell number 2. I should write that down up here or hook it on or something. So I know what I'm doing. Shell number 2. Okay. And this one here says shell number 3. Where is this one? What is this one now I'm working on? Shell number 1, right? Shell number 1. Something on the back of here. Boy, she did a lot of rugs. She's talking about a pomegranate. Film places. Okay. One. Let's just check and see which ones we've got here now. We've got 1, 2. And this one has to be cut. Ah, it's the same as this one here. Oh, now it's raining hard. paint by numbers when you do this, you know? Except you have to figure out what the numbers are. So awesome to have the proper colors. It's so cool. This is all the stuff that was in this trunk, and I wasn't going to bring this trunk. I didn't know this trunk existed till I was just about to leave. Unbelievable. Shell number 2. Oh, wait a minute. This is shell number 2. Is this shell number 2 also? No, I don't think so. This is shell number 2. It's down there. And then I have this other seaweed. This is the little seaweed. Shell number 1, I've got that right there. Yes. So small seaweed. Kelp. Right, small seaweed. Bliss portable stripper. Let me see if I can do it this way. Isn't this interesting? I know, it must be very boring for you. I can't imagine watching this. But... Oops. What time is it? 10 after 8. Two down. This is really neat. I'm going to have to figure out a way to set up the camera so you can see when I'm hooking. I should set up the camera so you can see when I'm doing this, right? Or not the camera, but the tripod. Things have gotten beyond me. I used to be able to do all those things, and now it's just a lot of work. I had an easy camera before. I could hold it. Well, this one's working well for today. I'm using my phone that was wet. I put it in water for, not in water. It was outside for 3 days in the rain. But I put it in rice for about a week. And it kind of messed up the view, but it looks pretty good right now. It doesn't look like it's all red stripes anymore. But when I was trying to film this morning, trying to film the raccoon playing in the place in there, eating everything. I was watching this thing the other day. It was this coronavirus thing. It was the One World at Home or something like that. It was interesting because I kind of feel left out of everybody being one world at home. But actually, I'm not left out. I'm just like everybody else. Like, we're all at home all the time. Or on your property or whatever. It's too bad you can't go driving around because there sure is a lot of free cheap gas out there. I would love to buy a tank of gas. It's interesting that they are flooding the market with gas at the very time that nobody cares. You know? Interesting, because people always care about the price of gas. Always. Now, is everybody running out to fill their cars? Probably. I don't know. But we can't go anywhere. You know, I always thought how the Depression, you know, when eggs were 5 cents a dozen or something. Or houses. My parents paid $15,000 for their house, which, you know, is a regular beautiful house. But I was thinking about, I just cut the edge off of this one strip. I don't know if it worked very well. Yeah, I've got all these things laying down here on the table. See, and these are all the strips up there. This is so cool. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Years ago, when I was at my mom's, there was this, it was a garbage container, one of those big, I think it was a Rubbermaid or maybe it was a metal one. A garbage container hidden out in the bushes outside of the house. And in it was wrapped in plastic. And in it was all this rug hooking stuff. And I brought that home. And it has some swatches like this, but this, I think, is the trunk that went to, this is the piece that she was working on, the last one she worked on. Imagine. There are so many unused, beautiful rugs that I could do afterwards, but finding the wool is a big challenge. You know, like I asked somebody who does it, and she says, well, you find old clothes, old suits, you know, but the kind of hooking that most people do, the colors are not blended, they're just some bold colors, you know. But my grandmother's way of doing it, she always, you know, blended the colors. As you can see, I mean, if you have the materials. But, you know, Anchoret dyes stuff, and I've learned to dye. I know how to dye. And I do have all this plain color, which I guess is mostly background stuff. But if I had to, I could color some. Dye it, you know? But then I'd have to plan ahead and know what I wanted it to look like. But I'm not like that. I just take it as it goes and see what happens. I know there's other people like me out there in the world. That's why it doesn't bother me anymore. Something went wrong with this one. There. All right, we'll hang these up. And this is called the small seaweed, right? Gray-green. Uh-oh, this one fell off. I didn't finish it. All right, so we'll put this up here. Small seaweed, large seaweed. Shell 1. Can you see me? Do that again. Okay, so this is shell 1. And this is the small seaweed. This is large seaweed. This is some of the background color. I'm gonna make this, oh, that was the dark one. And I'm gonna make a light one. But first I'm gonna have to cut this one because this one goes up here with this. What was this? I don't remember what this was. Shell 2, shell 1. Which one is shell 3? Shell 3. Okay. Shell number 3. I didn't realize these came in all labeled ready for the, so you know exactly what you were going to use it for. I didn't realize it was that organized. This is one of those ASMR things to put you to sleep, I guess, right? Okay, Google, what's playing?
This is Chopin, Nocturne number 2 in E flat major, Opus 9 number 2 by Vladimir Ashkenazy.
anybody there this morning to see the raccoon? There were these 3 raccoons that were in the bin. It was full of deer feed, or half full. I'm gonna have so much fun hooking this stuff. It'll be so nice. You can just come over and hook on it anytime. I can't wait to go down there and find the other bin that's full of other hooking stuff. I think today I'm going to work on weaving on my rug some more. I'm making a rush rug with rushes from the river. They've dried. They were from, I don't think it was even last summer. I think it might have been the summer before now. Which is a good thing because I took enough for a few years. I need to plant it in my moat. Actually, I probably should. I should start it up here in my garden stuff. I'll go see if I find any seeds on those rushes that are outside. Laying there ready to weave with. That would be pretty good, eh? Then I'll start them up here with my other seeds. Probably have more things I have to transplant now. This is a lot of work, eh? I've been at this for a long time. How long is this video? 151 minutes. That's almost 2 hours I've been doing this. That's all right. I'm getting it done. You got to do something with your time. What are you going to do? Find something fun. Uh-oh. Look at all this dust. You couldn't see. There we go. Another one done. Now this went on the last one I did, which is over here. I think I'll move them all over. Get the next hook there. It was only at the last minute I brought this. Uh-oh. didn't finish this one yet. I wonder if I can turn this so you can see it. I don't know how to do it so you can see it. I miss my grandchildren. Well, sounds like the finale. Guess I better hang up. Should we be done now? Hey, okay, Google. Skip. All right, those are up. So I have got here, what have I got now? Is everything up there? This is the shell number 3. That's this one. Shell number 2 is one. Shell number 2. Shell number 4. 4, 4, 4. Okay, so this one's open. So I'll do shell number 4. This is quite amazing. Oh, I don't have room for shell number 4. I guess I have to wait. I'll put it on here so I'll know that All right, so I'm gonna do some of this stuff here. Okay. Hi, Hunter. Wow, I haven't heard from you, Hunter, in years. Right? You were little when you used to listen to be on here. I'm just making a rug. I'm just cutting strips for it. So tell me about your life now that you're at home every day, all day. Are you, do you have to stay inside, or what are you doing? How are you enjoying your life now? I don't mean how well do you enjoy your life. I mean, I just see how many blessings we have. I have so many blessings. I can't believe how many blessings I have. All of us in North America are just so blessed. I have no idea. So this is all the rug hooking stuff, and it's going to be used over there. Did you say something else? What did you say? Yes, you're staying at home. So, hi, Alyssa. What I'm making is I'm cutting strips, which I am hanging up on a rack. And those are for working on this rug. So you see, it's for hooking. That's what it's all about. Sorry, I didn't tell you that all this time. And so now I'm cutting the backgrounds. You're getting hot. I guess I can't take off the shirt if you're sitting there watching. Oh, nice. Is this the Brandenburg Concerto? Okay, Google. What is playing?
You're listening to Solomon, Act 3, Entry of the Queen of Sheba by Scottish Chamber Orchestra.
What did you say? Yes, that's music in the background. It was, sounds like the Brandenburg Concerto, doesn't it? The other one that was playing for a long time was Chopin. What do you mean, is that music? What did she say it was? From the play The Queen of Sheba, or the opera, or something? All right, 4 more. It'd be really nice to have cut these. You know, Nancy tomorrow will be really grateful to Nancy today. Only by then she'll be Nancy yesterday. It's a good thing to do on a rainy day, isn't it? Do you run out of things to do? Are you allowed to go outside? Like I heard we're supposed to stay inside? Is that what somebody said? We're supposed to stay inside? That's why you should own your land, so you can go outside and be outside and enjoy it. Do you like this piece? I like this music. Okay, Google, play Brandenburg Concerto. Remember when that came out with Windows 95? There was the Weezer stuff.
All right, Brandenburg Concerto by Alan Silvestri, playing on Google Play Music.
That's not Brandenburg Concerto. Okay, Google, play the Brandenburg Concerto.
Brandenburg Concerto by Alan Silvestri, sure, playing on Google Play Music.
Okay, Google, go ahead 5 minutes. This is really cool. I'm excited to have these up there. This does not sound like the Brandenburg Concerto, does it? Okay, Google, skip ahead 10 minutes. Okay, Google, skip ahead 10 minutes. How long? Okay, Google, what's playing?
This is Dog Tag Ending by Thomas Newman.
Well, that's not what I asked you to play. Okay, Google, stop. There. Okay. So now. So here it is. It's the product of my efforts. And now I say goodbye. Goodbye. You can do this at home. Results may